The impeachment trial of Donald Trump is scheduled to start Tuesday with arguments in the U.S. Senate. The former president is being tried on allegations that he incited the violent mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The impending trial has a lot of people asking a lot of questions. We're bringing your questions that you have been sending in to constitutional law professor David Schultz. Take a look. Joining us right now to sort through questions about impeachment, Professor David Schultz of Hamline University. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me today.
All right. I want to say that you have written a guide to impeachment called Impeachment in a Nutshell. We're going to attach that to this interview on our website at WCCO.com so people can listen to the interview. They can also go to that attachment and read it. My first question that I got from a number of viewers is this impeachment trial constitutional?
And this is a really interesting question because had you talked to me, let's say about 2 months ago, I would have said to you that my reading of the Constitution, the language of it, as well as the debates from the Constitutional Convention would have suggested what? That you can't do an impeachment after somebody leaves office because the punishment for conviction is being thrown out of office. However, having said that, if you go back and look at the Constitution, it doesn't explicitly say that you can't do the trial and can't do a trial after a person has left office. And then there's this one very odd historical anomaly. Back in 1876, the Senate held a trial for a cabinet official who had already resigned. And so the reason why I mention all of this is that we're really on an open question constitutionally regarding whether or not the president can be tried after leaving office. But given the fact that the Supreme Court has said that it won't second-guess matters on impeachment, my guess is you could probably do this, although, again, this is constitutionally a really open question.
All right. What is the point of having an impeachment trial now?
I think the point for the Democrats is a couple of things. One, they want to punish the president and make it clear that what he did was wrong, especially on January 6th. Two, there may be a sense in which what they want to say is that even if not convicted, he'll only be the second president ever impeached twice. And then third, if
I thought he was the only president to be impeached twice.
Pardon me?
Isn't he the only president or former president to be impeached twice?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because we've had Andrew Johnson, who was impeached, not convicted. Nixon was going through the impeachment process, but never happened. Bill Clinton was impeached, not convicted. And then about a year ago, we had Donald Trump impeached, but not convicted. So this is a second impeachment for him. So he is only the first president or ex-president. I'll say he's the first president to be impeached twice, and only the first ex-president ever to be impeached. And so there's a couple of firsts here. But the other argument for why potentially the Democrats want to do this, that if he's been impeached, which he has, if he's convicted, then the Senate could take a second vote and vote as a punishment to bar him from running for federal office for the rest of his life. And so that may be what the Democrats are also hoping, is to basically say that what he did was so bad that he shouldn't be allowed to hold office again. All
right. Something you mentioned actually is a question I've gotten from a number of viewers. Why has a president in the whole history of this country never been convicted after he was impeached? Because that's never happened.
You're absolutely correct. It has never happened, and there could be a whole bunch of reasons.
In the Senate trial.
In a Senate trial, correct. And remember, to impeach somebody in the House, it takes a majority vote. To convict somebody in the Senate, it takes a 2/3 vote. So it's a pretty high bar. And I think that's part of the reason right there. It requires a 2/3 vote. Andrew Johnson was close. One more vote, and he would have been convicted in the Senate. So one, it may just simply be the high bar of a 2/3 majority. Two, it may simply be at the end of the day that the Senate has never been convinced that what the president did was so serious that merited conviction. Now, the Constitution says to be impeached, you have to show treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. And so maybe over time, we've just never seen somebody commit an act so bad that the Senate has believed that it merited conviction and removal.
I've gotten a number of questions that ask, does President Trump, former President Trump, have to be there the way a defendant would in a criminal trial? And does he have to testify if he's subpoenaed?
No. First off, the House has no subpoena power, so they can't require him to show up and testify. But remember, even though we call this a trial, this is really not a criminal trial in the sense of when we watch television shows and we have all those rules that kick in like that. So the normal rules of a criminal trial don't apply. He can't be compelled to testify. The House doesn't have subpoena power. In fact, the normal rules of evidence that would apply in a criminal trial also don't apply. So as we think about it as a trial, we can't think of it in that typical notion of what we normally have come to understand as a criminal trial.
And what is the burden of proof? In a criminal trial, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. In a civil trial, it's, you know, the preponderance, the majority of the evidence. What's the burden of proof here?
There is no constitutional standard for it. And I'm almost going to argue, given the fact that nobody has ever been convicted, it's almost to the sense of where I think effectively the standard of proof or burden of proof is absolute certainty. Now, there's nothing written in the law regarding that, because at the end of the day, impeachment and the trial are really more matters of political judgment. But we really don't have a clear standard that has to be applied. But given the fact that we've never convicted somebody, I think it's almost something way beyond a reasonable doubt and possibly as high as absolute certainty.
All right. I also got this question. It looks like former President Trump is going to be acquitted because you have to have 67 senators, 17 Republicans vote for it. If, in fact, he is acquitted, which it certainly looks like, can't he declare victory? Won't that be a victory for him going forward?
Well, yes, in the sense that he wasn't convicted, it is. And I think this is one of the risks that the Democrats have in terms of moving on impeachment in the trial, is that with an acquittal, it's going to be much the same as what happened last year when they impeached him the first time and he was acquitted. And at the end of the day, he was able to say that he was vindicated. And we may see the exact same thing happen here.
All right. But he doesn't have to be there and he doesn't have to testify.
Absolutely correct. And in fact, he's indicated that he's not going to testify. I think he's just going to send his attorneys.
All right. Well, Professor David Schultz, thank you so much. Again, you've written Impeachment in a Nutshell. We're going to attach that to this interview, and this is going to live on our website at WCCO.com. Thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.